Thank you, John, for that update on our commercialization and expansion strategy. Over to intellectual property. Intellectual property is the foundation of any pharmaceutical business, and in the case of synthetic polymeric antibiotics or anti-infectives for human uses, Recce really owns that space. In fact, here we see four families of patents covering composition of matter patents, method of manufacture, method of administration, method of treatment, and the process for preparation of a biologically active polymer. It's another name for how to make it. You'll see these patents are granted all around the world. In fact, there's about 90% of the world's pharmaceutical markets represented here, taking our market monopolies out to 2041, in fact, beyond, with additional patent families lodged in the background at this moment. So a very strong patent strategy there. We have a present capital raise at this moment. In fact, it's a raise that is focused upon strengthening our balance sheet. Our balance sheet is particularly important as we engage in commercial licensing. As we've seen, we've announced a significant term sheet with a leading Middle Eastern pharmaceutical company. And really, as we transition from that term sheet to a definitive agreement, we want to be in our best position possible. In fact, it would be reasonably expected with a late-stage phase 3 candidate to have multiple licensing negotiations going on in what is a regional licensing play, of course, across other regions of the world. We're obviously utilising some of that capital to firm up our clinical studies, of which we have 2 phase 3 programs at the moment, and supporting our US FDA activities as well. We've slightly extended the SPP from what was to be close of business Monday to now close of business Friday. And shareholders that were available on the record date at 40 cents per share, etc., can subscribe for around $30,000 each. This is our capital snapshot. So, of course, where the company is on an equity basis, a market cap of around 115 million Australian, of which the top 20 shareholders represent about 57% of the company. As a reminder, they include groups like Fidelity, one of the biggest investment groups in the world, still own about 8.5%, 9% of the company. My family, by example, still has about 20% of the company. And where it really leaves us as a breakdown of our cash position is utilising some equity, but really non-dilutionary cash to drive our path forwards. So we announced recently the Australian Tax Office provided $3.6 million in non-dilutionary caveat-free cash. In fact, this year, having just completed the recent financial year, we're presently submitting for a further R&D rebate from the ATO. That R&D rebate will be around $7.5 million, and we'd expect that around October, November of this year, as we have in every other year previously. We also have a non-dilutive capital position with Avenue Capital Group in the background that could provide us an additional 10 million in near-term financing. And with the small equity raise that we are completing at this moment, it leaves us in a pro forma cash position of around $33.1 million. In fact, that's up from $25.5 million when we announced this raise, and that's a result of the additional R&D rebates. So in summary, Recce Pharmaceuticals, it has the ability, of course, to work and keep on working with repeated use, unlike any other antibiotic or anti-infective known to date. Why that's important is we're commercially valuable today in the context of what our compound delivers. And as we continue to use that and the bacteria continue to grow and multiply, we do not succumb to antibiotic resistance. We work as well as we do in every single passage, and we've demonstrated that in well over 500 different bacterial species. There are no signs of resistance to Recce 327. And in fact, in our mechanism of action studies, we've identified that it's statistically impossible for there to be any resistance to Recce 327. As a company, it's an exciting time in that we are at the stage of commercialization. We have 2 phase 3 studies, and that represents a near-term inflection point in regards to our Indonesia study. Our Indonesia study focused upon diabetic foot ulcer infections, is expected to commercialize or be approved at the end of this year. That means with that data pack applicable across the ASEAN group of countries, Middle East and beyond, it is sell, sell, sell into 2028 and beyond. Of course, in Australia, 2027 beyond, I should say. In Australia, that same study focused upon the US FDA is expected to be approved at the end of 2027, and that would be the US, Europe, and beyond. We're commercializing, as we've shown, we have a very positive term sheet demonstrating a 30 to 36% net royalty on a proposed selling price of around $1,500. For those interested in the US, the proposed selling price is around $3,500, but we'll elaborate a little more on that along the way. And this is the first new class of antibiotics in over 40 years. In fact, interestingly, the discovery of penicillin was discovered in 1927, and the commercialization of Recce is going to be right on the centenary of 2027 of the discovery of antibiotics, and we continue to push that path forwards. That concludes today's investor presentation. I'm James Graham, Managing Director and CEO. Thank you for listening.